Welcome to Health Pod, your self-development hub
on mental health, psychology, and spirituality.
For our viewers, you mentioned that your first connection to your angels was Archangel Michael, and that came through for you. Because I know there's a lot of people that are new to this path as well, and that are discovering this. What could that look like for someone?
I was somebody who was really highly sensitive. I felt a lot of energies. In high school, I hit pretty deep depression. And but somewhere when I hit rock bottom, there was like this crack that opened up. It was not about becoming more. It was about actually undoing the layers that stopped my natural essence from flowing into the world.
It feels like my whole day's changed around them.
But really the primary usage is for emotions and, different energetic blockages. Flower essences work with our system on a slow and steady level, chipping away at things step by step.
Oh, there we go.
Oh. So we received the Queen of Swords.
The Queen of Swords.
The universe, source, God, whatever you want to call it, made us smart. It made us sovereign, so it means it's not going to intervene until we make a request.
We pick one card for our audience.
Yeah, we
So
can
this
do.
time it's... Welcome to Health Pod, Nina. I am so happy to have you here.
Lovely to be here.
I initially met you at a cacao ceremony, and I had no idea what flower essences were when you first mentioned them. And I thought, what is a flower essence?
Today's episode is sponsored by Nomad, your local experts on sourdough bread, mouth-watering pastry, and specialty coffee. So for those of you that would like to start your day right and get your caffeine fix, Nomad is the place to go. Let's tune back into our wonderful episode.
So flower essences are a little bit... So we know that there are many herbal products out there. So we have things like essential oils, which is what a lot of people think that flower essences are. One of the first things that people like to do is like pick up a bottle, take a sniff, and I'm like, guys, it smells like alcohol. You smell the preservative. And it's not a tincture either, which is a tincture is basically where you put a lot of herbs inside of alcohol, and that starts to break apart the plant material. Flower essences basically have almost have a very, very low percentage of plant material. One of the reasons that is because it's not heat treated. And there is also, you're not using as much flowers as you would, for example, for a tincture or an essential oil. And what we are doing is we're allowing this, so we basically set a bowl of really high quality water, because it's not just the flower or the plant that we're going to be using that's really, really important in a flower essence. It's actually also the water itself, right? The more alive, the more high quality water, the more, because water is like a vehicle, right? So it has this ability, that's part of the medicine. And yeah, that with the sunlight, that plant infuses into the water, and then we basically have the vibrational components of what that plant is good for infused into the water, and then we can use that internally. We do use it for physical things, but really the primary usage is for emotions and for our different energetic blockages that we might have. We do, like I said, use them on physical things sometimes, because obviously the physical symptoms that we sometimes experience start with the mind or the emotions, or start with, difficult experiences that we have that our body then processes by bringing outwards. So we do treat the physical symptoms sometimes as well, but mostly it's a lot to do with the emotions. So think about, like, if you're struggling with anxiety, if you're struggling with depression, if you're struggling with self-worth, we're using a different, if a person is coming to me, we're using many plants to tackle different parts of the person that's going to help build the first layer. And yeah, that's a little bit about how flower essences, or like what they are and how
And
they
how
work.
they work. Yeah. I find it fascinating because when I first heard about them, I was like, yes, well, what do they do, how they're used. And when I did have a session with you, and I'm currently working with the flower essences. I could feel, I'm feeling things shift through me. And it's, it's incredible how things are coming up to the surface, but they don't feel like, they're too much to handle or too much to process. So their their potency their potency is very alive within the body. And the other thing that I've found that has really helped me is it's helped me implement a more conscious practice, because you don't just want to go put the drops in your mouth and walk around. You actually want to create space for it, to connect to it, to this is my own personal process. Like, I'll sit and I'll do my meditation, and then I'll put a few drops on my tongue, and I just allow them to do what they have to do. But it feels like my whole day's changed around them, which is beautiful. They've become like an integral part of my practice now. And how did Nina get into this? Like, what was your journey, your path to discovering and playing around with not only flower essences, but also tarot?
So I want to actually I want to backtrack just a little bit about something that you mentioned.
Yes.
So something that's really, really, like, one of the things that I always tell people that flower essences really, really are at their core is that they're pattern interrupters. The whole thing of using a vibrational medicine, and I always tell people that you come for one flower essence session and you have one bottle, and that's not enough, because the flower essences work with our system on a slow and steady level, chipping away at things step by step. Just the same way that if I was going to take a supplement in my life, taking it for 1 week or 1 month is usually not enough time to see long, sustainable change. And flower essences do something similar. And what's really, really powerful is that vibrational medicine starts to send new information to the body. And what the body starts to, kind of two things start to potentially happen, is that either we have this moment where we just are able to perceive in a new way, so we might start thinking up solutions or moving towards actions that we didn't think that we couldn't have before, simply because they start to send new signals repeatedly. Or what happens is that we start to remove the natural, like, whatever's blocking us, whatever energy is not allowing us because of, trauma or challenges or emotions that we most of the time in society have been not taught how to process very well. They get lodged in the body. And so it's like a little, it's like a little hammer that's just chipping away and allowing that to be released. But in a way, like, exactly like you said, that's not, that actually makes you feel like, okay, I'm maybe going through this emotion, I'm releasing things, but I have the capacity to be able to hold myself through the process.
Yes.
And this happens obviously just by you taking it, but just by you. So usually when somebody comes to me, obviously you're doing it 3 times a day, 3 drops.
Yes.
And all of this already is a new habit that you're setting. Right? It's new information. It's a new habit. It's new. It's, for a lot of people, it's the first time, like, oh, okay, this is my moment really where I'm taking care of myself. I'm taking a moment to listen, to feel what that, how the drops are coming into my body. And all of that is already creating awareness to be able to shift into new patterns and new ways of being. And I think the way to explain how I got to all of this is like you could obviously start all the way back to the beginning. So I have to say that I was always a really, really open child. I was somebody who was really highly sensitive. I felt a lot of energies. My mom always used to joke that like there was a little kid talking to people in the back of the car and like who weren't there, and she just like didn't bat an eyelash, totally normal. And then I went to school and I started to learn that not everyone operates in the world this way. And then many different instances, like in my family, in different bullying at school, I started to close down that sensitivity, and I used to really, really fight against. I really, really fought against who I was, and I really had to shut that down. And the problem is with what I learned over time is that the more that you spend shutting away how you naturally operate, the more, at least personally for me, the more depressed I got.
Yes.
Right? Because I was cut off from being something that was integral to who I was. And that got worse. And in high school, I hit like a really pretty deep depression. And but somewhere when I hit rock bottom, there was like this crack that opened up, and I knew I had to change something. And it was like this little tiny sliver of light that pulled in. And it first started, I turned to my mom. So I'm someone who has a very active mind. I blame that.
Really?
Yeah. I blame that on the Aquarius, Cindy.
Yeah.
And for anyone who's like, oh yeah, Nina's not an Aquarius, I'm like, I have a 6-planet stellium which is like 6 planets in one house. I'm like, we're definitely an Aquarius. And so I came to her, and it really started with, okay, how do I understood that there was something that needed. I couldn't like live with my mind constantly running the show and telling me all of these things. There was something. It's like I just understood there had to be another way, and so I came to her and I asked my mom, like, what do I do about this? And she's like, have you tried meditation? And so this
To your mom?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because she had been doing, she had started her own path, sort of, and she started in Pilates, she got bored with Pilates, she moved to yoga, and then she started meditating, and so it was like, she was the first person to bring awareness to that. And as I started to meditate and I started to calm my mind, there was a point, and at the same time, so the first name of my business, that came obviously a lot later, was Pantarea, and it's the first tattoo that I have as well. It's what I got when I was 17. And I didn't know before I moved to Cyprus, because moving to Cyprus was a whole accident I was not planning.
Well, we're happy to have you here and that this accident happened, yes?
And obviously in Greek, so pantare comes from everything flows. And there was something in me that started through this journey of meditation and exploring self, of realizing what happens. And I was always a big nature lover, even then, and I was like enamored by trees and beautiful views. And I remember looking at trees and going, they come in all of these beautiful, weird shapes and sizes, and they have like awkward branches that kind of end up molding into each other, and I'm pretty sure they have no shape, right? They are. And most of the time we look at those flowers and we look at those plants and we're like, wow, that's so beautiful. So why am I not the same? And so this is what it started. And eventually I came to Cyprus. I discovered cacao ceremonies. I went deeper into myself. But through this entire process, something that I learned very quickly is that underneath all of my work, I use a number of tools.
Yes, yeah.
And we can get into
get to that.
But underneath all of that, I started to realize that there was like this universal undercurrent. This undercurrent was super loving. And if I just trusted the breadcrumbs that had left me about how my magic was my magic, and that meant so was everyone else's, that I would be led into the right direction. And it wasn't about it was not about becoming more. It was about actually undoing the layers that stop my natural essence from flowing into the world. And that's exactly something that flower essences do. Yeah, and then there were a number of things. I started with Reiki. That was my first thing that I did. So I started as an energy healer. My energy healing was honestly, I got a message in meditation, and I got visited. The first guide visitation that I received was from Archangel Michael. And that same day where I really, really felt him, I had a friend in a ceremony with me going, hey, they want to work with you. You want to would you be interested in exploring angelic Reiki? Which I did. And then angelic Reiki, I got the certificate. I got my training, and I was like, okay, well, now what do I can energy heal. Now what? And my teacher back then, that I was going, not the Reiki teacher, but that I was going to ceremonies with, turned around and was like, hey, why don't you just try and putting yourself out there? So it was like, it didn't have a particular business plan or anything like that. I was 19, I think, or something when I first started.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was no plan. And then step by step. And then from angelic Reiki, I started working with angel cards. And then over time with angel cards, I was like, I'm always that person who's like, but where did this come from? Like, what's the deeper version of this? And even though I love angel cards, I have no shade towards them. I use them for different clients because sometimes for different reasons. But I understood that, okay, even in the angel tarot, everything seems really, really lovely. And that's wonderful. But if everything's always lovely, then we have no reason to dig deeper or to change.
Yes.
And so that's how I started to first come to tarot.
Okay.
And and then through tarot, I learned about divination, and flower essences came to me in a similar way.
Okay, wonderful. So what is it that you do with tarot? I see that you brought your stack here today.
So this
are we gonna like energy flow into inspiration here and see what comes up?
If I'm being prompted here, yeah, sure. Do you want me? Yeah, should I go and pull one?
Yeah.
So this deck actually here is the first deck. First after my angel tarot that I have. This is like the first proper tarot deck that I bought. That's why it's like all my other tarot decks have like nice boxes. This is like, it's lost.
I love it. It looks like it's actually been used. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
oh no. So this is this is.
Oh,
a
you don't have
one.
a box for that one.
No,
Sorry.
I don't have a box for that one. Yeah. So this is like the one that I have, which is a bit of a different art style, and then this is one of the classic Rider-Waite's. There are 3 systems of tarot actually. Okay. Yeah, which we don't have to get into right this second, but yeah. And there's a lot of history about how tarot came to be, but this is also, it's like based on the same kind of system, but it has a different kind. This is not the classical art, which is why I got drawn to it.
Okay.
It's fantasy-esque.
Okay. Let's
see.
Oh, there we go.
Oh. So we received the Queen of Swords.
The Queen of Swords.
Which is funny because, queens are about the highest form of embodiment of a particular element. And swords have everything to do with our intellect, our conversations, our thought forms, being able to communicate clearly, passionately. With coherence, yes. And also the Queen of Swords is she's a character in the deck who, she has no problem. She does it with poise and with grace, but she's very forward and blunt. There is no faffing about around the point. She gets there. She knows exactly what to say and how to be honest.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Ooh. I see you watching and really enjoying this episode. So if you're this far through the episode, make sure that you like and subscribe. It really helps our channel. Thank you.
It's like I'm getting a little...
That was a really loud message right now from me. Like I told you, I'm I'm not the kind of person that like I love tarot being read for me, but I would not. I may not personally be interested in doing it myself, but people want to know how to read tarot.
Yeah, no, and I'm working on a course.
Yes. So that's very interesting. I think what's coming through for me now is why are there so many different tarot options out there? Like, is there one specific tarot cards deck that is like the basis of everything?
So the answer is no, because like
Okay.
I mentioned earlier, is that there are 3 kinds of schools of thought around tarot,
Okay.
right? So we have 3 decks. We have the most common that like majority of people often use is called the Rider-Waite.
Okay.
And this is this deck here, and this is the original, right?
Okay.
This, I mean, not obviously this deck, first deck that was
Yes,
printed, but it's
I get
the
it, yes.
original, right? Then we have a deck called, it's called the Thoth deck,
Uh-huh.
and then we have the Marseille.
Okay.
The Marseille is the oldest
Okay.
out of all of them. So the way that basically tarot started about, so the first time we believe that tarot kind of came to the surface is we believe that in China, in the dynasties, they used to play card games, but they also used to use them for divination and for fortune telling.
Okay.
Over time, that got brought, it moved throughout the Middle East, it came to Europe, and we had something in Italy in the, I think it was the 1400s, if I'm not wrong. I'm not the best with dates always, so sometimes I forget. So in the 1400s, the first kind of tarot deck that ever came to being, and it was called the tarocchi. And the tarocchi was really, it did not look like it does now. It didn't have most of the majors, and it was what's called a pip deck. So how you see a regular set of cards,
Yes.
like clubs,
The aces.
diamonds, all of these things. Those first decks were more like that.
Okay.
And they first started off as a card game. Then it was believed that they evolved into a form of fortune telling and divination. And then eventually, between France and England, they they came up with the Marseille deck. And Marseille deck, it was also very similar to the tarocchi. It's based on pips, it's very basic. There's not a lot of imagery. You see, like 5 of clubs, 5 of this kind of style. So it was really about knowing what everything meant. And then obviously the majors like you have in the tarot also had some imagery. And then later, so in the 1900s, there was 2 occultists. So there was Edward Waite. So he was, they were part of a group, so Edward Waite, and then there was also Aleister Crowley, and they were both part of an occult group named the Golden Dawn. And so both the Thoth and both the Rider-Waite kind of happened around the same time, but they have different methodologies to them.
Okay.
So the Rider-Waite is a lot more picturesque. It has a lot of it's a lot more picturesque, whereas the Thoth is a lot more abstract. And also Aleister Crowley was an avid Kabbalist, so it's like a Jewish mysticism and astrology and stuff like that. So there's also this level of components. So it was a differentiation based on their preferences of like mystic study that then got incorporated into those decks.
Okay.
Right? And also something that you will see, so in the Thoth deck, so there's a general conversation. So in our majors, we have the 8 and 11. So in a Rider-Waite, 8 is strength and 11 is justice. In the Thoth deck, this is the other way around.
Okay.
So, and there are like mystical reasons for that, basically. And so those are like the three kinds. Like I said, Rider Waite is the easiest to use for a lot of people because of the imagery. A lot of imagery is what provokes your intuition to be able to receive the message or to be able to put kind of different storylines together. But at the same, and then you'll notice like, okay, these are both based on classical Rider-Waite system, but they look completely different.
Okay.
Why? The big component is that almost regardless of what deck that you get, you'll always get around 78 cards. I mean, you'll always get 78 cards. That's the natural, like, that's the set system. Sometimes you'll notice that some other artists might throw in some extra ones because they feel channeled to, like, they feel prompted to do so. But really, the big thing about art is about interpreting the imagery. The classical is lovely. But it's also really outdated. It has a lot of imageries that's like from the 1900s. You see a lot of like typical like white man and white woman, these more old school narratives that don't exist as much right now.
Okay, and is that the deck that you have there?
Yeah, this is the deck that I
Can we
have
have a
here.
look?
Yeah, of course.
Shall we pick one card for our audience?
Yeah, we
So
can
this
do.
time it is for our audience. It's a message that whoever is watching this is needing to receive.
Yes. And before I go ahead and pull that, you'll notice like the Rider-Waite has a lot of like yellows and blues. And
If you can just turn it around to the camera as well so they can...
A lot of yellows and blues and some reds. And this is all like, this was
Nice.
a style of that time. It's also all like prompted around the imagery, the kind of colors that they were using.
Nina, you know far too much about tarot. How are we going to find out more about it ourselves?
Well, I might be in behind the scenes, and maybe by the time this comes out into the world, it will be live in the world. So I'm working on a beginner tarot course. So this will really give people the foundations and the structure to be able to grasp how it works as a whole and to start to read. And then later on, there's going to be some other segments that come out so that we can take that learning deeper.
Fabulous.
Because honestly, once you get on the tarot journey, you're going to be learning for the rest of your life.
That's amazing. That's what it sounds like. That's what I hear when you're speaking. Like it goes deeper and deeper and there's so many layers to it. And there we go. Is that for our audience?
Yes, I'm actually I want to pull one more.
There we go. Okay.
Oh.
Do you want me to hold?
No, I got him.
Okay, what do we have?
Oh, wow. Okay, so
let's turn it around so they can see.
So we have the Judgment card here.
Okay.
And we have the Ten of Cups.
Okay.
So I think what's really important for whoever is watching this right now is realizing that one of the ways, so the Ten of Cups is all about the highest form of emotional fulfillment. It's about having the right relationships around us. It's about feeling like super aligned and just really trusting in our emotional foundations and watching the outside world reflect that to us. And what the Judgment card tells me paired with that is that for many people who are going to be watching that is that this outcome is really, really close. It's almost like a reach away as soon as the people watching this let go of the judgment of what that happiness is supposed to look like. It's about letting go of the judgment of what anyone else thinks that emotional fulfillment is supposed to look and really falling into, oh yeah, this is what it feels. Because sometimes we feel ashamed of the things that really the things that we aspire to have in our lives that are deemed as success or the things that we achieve. And all of that is so personal to us. So it's about letting go of what other people might think and allowing us just to, if it brings us joy, really true lasting fulfillment, that's what matters. But we need to let go of the judgment of what that might look like to the outside world, what other people might say about us. And just, even if that what people are saying is us saying that to ourselves.
Yeah.
Which happens also.
Yes. That's a great message. It's like, you really have to remember that the more you are and the more you embrace it, and you are able to also speak to that unkind voice that may be the judgment in your head, to give you that permission and that courage to just go for whatever it is that you want to go towards, be more of you within the world. It's more of what we need in this world, not copies of each other and all following the same path.
Absolutely.
So discovering our own unique blueprint and what we're here to do.
I also think, like, when you sometimes we learn really quickly that, like, because we become so well acquainted with our own inner world, we think like, oh, everyone must want this, and this is also why, like, it might look bad, right? Especially if somebody wants a larger than life right? Because we also have to be mindful of the fact that, like, yes, abundance is our birthright, but we also live on a planet that has limited resources, right? So not everyone can operate in the world in the same way. But then we start to realize, but not everyone wants that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Everyone's like dream, goal, and real life, what they really, really want is so different. And that's also sometimes the difficult thing, because society programs so many people of being like, oh yeah, this is the holy standard that everyone should be living up to. And this is where we get disconnected from ourselves, because maybe our authentic self wants a completely different outcome or a different life. And using things like tarot or flower essences or are just like many tools are allowing us to reconnect back with our authentic voice.
Yeah. Fabulous. I love that. I love that we can use these tools to be able to reconnect back to ourselves and remember that we are always guided, and that we hold so much more power within ourselves than what we think we excuse me. Clearing of some energy right there for some reason. So, Nina, you mentioned something right at the beginning of the episode that I feel would be very useful for our viewers. You mentioned that your first connection to your angels was Archangel Michael, and that came through for you. Because I know there's a lot of people that are new to this path as well, and that are discovering this. What could that look like for someone?
So, honestly, it could look really, really different. Something that, one of the things that you're like, obviously a big part of learning the tarot, for example, in general, is about employing your intuition. And intuition looks really, really, really different. And also it will look progressively different over time. That particular meditation that I had, compared to the way that my intuition speaks to me now, is completely different.
And that's because you've worked on it.
Yeah, it's because it's not just that I've worked on it, but the intuition gets stronger as soon as you follow the first impulse, and then the second impulse, and the third impulse. It strengthens because you answer its call.
Yes.
If you continue to ignore it, it's the same thing, like, I need to be able to become a good runner, I need to at least go on the first run. And then my muscles that are wired to break down and come together naturally get stronger. And then it's the second, and then it's the third. And yes, it's to some case it's training, but it's also about the fact that I just showed up every day, every time to that. To my intuition. And so that particular meditation, I just felt like during that period of my life, it was actually really hard to go into, like, to get into deep meditation and to stay conscious. So I almost would have this experience where it almost felt like I was falling asleep, but I wasn't asleep. And at one point, I just felt this in the in the very backs of my eyes, I felt this blue light, and I just knew straight away. I was like, that's him.
Okay.
And but now the way that he might appear to me is in a very, very different way. And I wouldn't say that, we have a number of like clairs, a number of ways of seeing through our intuition, right? So we have clairvoyance, which is obviously clear sight. We have clairaudience, which is clear hearing, clear sentience, clear feeling. We have clear, like, being able to smell. Some people smell through the clairs. And we also have like kinesthetic. It's like it's not just sentient as emotions, but it's like people's bodies move in certain ways that they experience. And so one thing that I would say about intuition is often we're communicated in ways that make the most sense to us.
Yes.
Right? And
It's like personalized.
And I would even say that the way that you naturally intake information, like, how do you learn? Are you a visual learner? Do you need to put things back to, like, pull things apart and put things back together? Are you someone who, just naturally has a big emotional capacity, and you notice when your emotions change around certain people? So all of these are small clues. And then the other thing with developing your intuition is, if the message is not clear, we can't always ask for it. Right? And the one thing about, working with intuition, working with omens, signs, guides, whoever it is that you're going to work with, the universe, source, God, whatever you want to call it, made us smart. It made us sovereign. So it means it's not going to intervene until we make a request. So the same thing with intuition. If I don't understand the message that I got, I can ask for it to be clearer.
Yeah. Ask and you shall receive.
Yeah. And then it's like any other language. It takes some time. It takes the willingness to act on it, even when sometimes it doesn't make a lot of logical sense.
Yes.
But yeah, over time, it develops.
Following those breadcrumbs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I have one more question for you. And this is our final question of the day, Nina. Who is Nina without flower essences, without tarot, without your upbringing? Who is Nina? Thank you so much for watching this episode. If you'd like to dive deeper into your own personal development and tap into your most authentic self, you can book a one-on-one session with me. You'll be able to find the details in the description here below. I look forward to chatting with you.
I think I'm a soul just trying to... I'm a soul that's probably experienced multiple lives, potentially in multiple places, some of them perhaps not on Earth. We'll see. Because there's a lot
That's
of...
when we met.
Yeah?
Yeah.
There's a lot of mythology out in the world, right? That there's other life and other experiences out there. But yeah, I would say that I'm a soul discovering what it means to be a full embodied human being. And that is sometimes wearing those identities and sometimes so much more than that. And being okay with changing and not knowing, because, it sounds a little cliche, but the only constant is change, and that includes me. So, yeah, I'm in this vehicle that's a body, and we're, like, trying to figure it out. We're exploring what this life is all about. That's who I am. I can't pinpoint it to one thing. We're just exploring. And I think what I will say, what I know about myself is that, like a lot of things that people always tell me is like, Nina, how do you know so much?
Yeah, you retain so much information, don't you? It's incredible.
So one thing that I would say is that, like, there's that, like, it's again a cliche saying, but it's like when you realize how much there is to know, you realize you know nothing.
Yes.
And I really do feel like I know nothing. But what I do know is that I'm curious.
Yeah.
And that I hope that I will always be that way. And then when I get to my end of my life, I had a zest for life. That I was always curious about what there is to explore, because there is so much to explore. From people, to food, to places, to our own our own world. There's a whole universe inside of us.
Yeah.
Let alone the one that exists out there, right?
Yeah.
So I just want to be curious enough to discover what that is. And maybe that sometimes doesn't come out with a answer that fits in a box, and that's
okay.
That's fine.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful like you. Thank you so much, Nina. Thank you so much for being on Health Pod here today. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, your ideas, your divination tools. And I'm sure we're going to be back here again soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We are going to see you soon. Ciao. Thank you so much for watching this episode. It's been an absolute pleasure filming it for you guys. If you like the work that we are putting out into the world, please make sure you like this video and you subscribe to our channel. It really helps the work that we do.
And if you would like to follow our journey on our IG accounts as well as learn more about our services, we provide everything for you in the description below. Thanks for watching.